So we're lucky enough to have Liu Xiaodong here and Zhang Ga to talk about this spectacular new body of work. It's an ambitious project, and as you'll have noticed, we have our handsome robot painter slowly ticking away, looking at Trafalgar Square while we're talking. And this started, I guess, about 18 hours ago. Last night the painting started and will carry on till the end of the exhibition on the 13th of March. So just before we get into this, I want to talk about Zhang Ga, who's a curator of media art, professor at CAFA, and also director of the Chronus Art Center, where this whole project began. He's also current curator of the Guangzhou Triennial and various other things. But so we're going to talk about how the work came to light. And obviously, I'm going to start with you, Xiaodong. He's a painter of real life, and I was very privileged to work on his first exhibition with Lisson Gallery 6 years ago, when I joined the gallery, actually. And Xiaodong paints wherever he goes. So in that instance, he came to London and painted in a nearby pub, a few nearby venues, which was an amazing process. But you can imagine that, watching him work, discussing the work with him as he's making it is quite a privilege. So fast forward 6 years after that first project, and you can imagine how disappointed I was that Xiaodong wasn't here. And instead, we have this amazing apparatus designed by him. So in a way, he's kind of sent a robot version of himself ahead of time. It's like a clone or a proxy for the painter. So I want to start by asking Xiaodong, is this you, or is this a future you? What are we looking at here? It's on.
Yeah. 我觉得他比我老，因为他工作很勤恳。
I think it is older than me because he's more hardworking, diligent than me.
他倒是跟我很像，就是说我画画也是看一眼画一笔，看一眼画一笔。他比我更加严格，他看1秒画一笔，看1秒画一笔。
It's in a way very like me because the way that I work is I look at the subject and I paint. So it's one look and one stroke. And for this work, it's more sort of hardworking than me in the sense that it look 1 second and then you make a mark.
And then maybe we should ask you, Zhang Ga, how this commission came about in 2015, and maybe you could tell us a little bit about how it works and what's going on here. There should be one behind. I think you have your own microphone, yeah? It should be working. Yeah?
Okay, so, well, first of all, Xiaodong is an old friend of mine. We went to school together when we were teenagers, in fact. And we sort of went on a different path, and he became an internationally renowned artist and painter. And I became a curator, and I left China for many years. This particular project was actually one of the sort of desires to revive the art and technology program that was initiated at the LACMA from the 60s. So that was a moment when LACMA started this project, tried to respond to the rapidly changing society that is fundamentally become technological. And then they invited many artists. I think by now the house name artists from the main figures, from Dan Graham to Rauschenberg to you name it. Everybody almost was sort of involved in that process. So they tried to pair artists with technologists, with tech companies and big big factories and try to see what comes out of that collaboration, what comes out of that artistic inspiration with the technological kind of potentials. And then many people produced important works, and some failed, some became legacy projects. So this was the intention, try to revive this project within this current context. I think we are entirely sort of situated in the technological time-space. If the 60s was saw the inkling of that, but now we are in it. So the idea is that how we're going to do that, try to pick up that tradition, that legacy, and extend it. And then so I had this idea. I said, okay, let's just do it. And so Liu Xiaodong is our first guinea pig. So I said, okay, he is a well-known artist and good friend of mine. I'm gonna put out a challenge to him. I said, okay, Xiaodong, would you like this idea to work on something that you completely were unfamiliar with? And then he said, sure, let's try it. And that was how it came out. And then that was great.
Because originally you said in your discussions, as I understand it, you wanted to somehow depict or capture the burden of a person's soul or an emotional interior feeling. And he made these amazing drawings of people carrying things or looking burdened. So the first idea was somehow to capture some kind of inner spirit through technological means. Is that correct?
You ask me? Oh, Xiaodong.
对于我来讲，比如说策展人、学者，他们更多的想的是未来，想的是最前沿的思想。但是我一个画家，想的更多的是过去的事情，比如我想念我的朋友，我想念我的兄弟姐妹，想念我的父母。我会根据我过去的经验去面对现在的问题。
For me, I think that for curators and scholars, what they're focusing on is the future, what's coming next. But for me, what I focus on is the past. I'm missing my friends and my family.
所以我用这个科技，我希望它能够有一种人情的味道。我希望它像个人一样，是有感情的。 他像我画画一样，有一点抖抖的，手抖一抖的那种，有一种情感含在里边。
So for me, what I hope that this painting machine will convey is human emotion. The way that it paints is a little bit shaky. It's like me.
I can add on to it. I think this work. What you saw now is a final result of many iterations, because we went through many discussions and possible concepts, ideas, and then we vetoed many crazy concepts because it's totally unrealistic and impractical. We can't actually do these things. But Xiaodong, as an artist, he has this wild imagination. So he was thinking about things that I don't think currently, technologically speaking, is viable and possible. But finally, we came to the understanding that okay, this is something would work, and then it also very much represents his very way of working. His very sort of a documentary kind of a in situ kind of way of practice.
And I suppose coming away from that idea of the human, trying to capture some emotional human nature, what the machine is capturing is actually movement and motion, but then the title came through, which is Weight of Insomnia. So it's talking about the ceaselessness of our cities. So we have Shanghai. We have here different paintings from Germany, which are actually, this one is painted in a BMW factory, so it's a painting made by a machine of machines making more machines. So you also have here the sheer kind of mass of humanity, whether that's vehicles, people, or light moving and creating the marks. So could you talk a bit about that sleeplessness, maybe the insomnia of the title?
其实最早我想叫它悲伤的重量。
At the very first, I was thinking about calling it the weight of sadness.
因为我觉得悲伤很有力，很有重量，它使我们站不起来，使我们非常的痛苦。所以这个重量，我总想用新媒体表达出来。
I think that the weight of sadness is really heavy, it's really big. It makes us sort of not being able to stand up. I think the weight of sadness is what I would like to convey through new media.
然后经过1年半，我跟那个编程的科学家们讨论这个问题，我们大概讨论了1年半。他告诉我，你很难测量人的悲伤的重量，因为一个人悲伤的时候，你不一定在他的身边。
When I was discussing with the programmer, and he suggested that it's really hard to measure the degree of sadness, because when the person feels sad, then you're not necessarily by his side, and you can't feel his sadness.
所以这是个很难物化的一个概念，也就是说，它相当于要测量人的灵魂的重量，几乎是没有的，几乎是做不到的。
It is hard to measure sadness because it's like you have to measure the weight of one's soul.
所以慢慢过渡到用一种不停的、反复的去描绘一个景观，这种方式，达到一种接近我们失眠时候的状态。因为当我们失眠的时候， 也是会感到非常沉重的一种压力。
So I decided to repetitively depict a scenery, so that it will be akin to the weight of insomnia.
另外，我们发明了机器，人类发明了机器。其实机器它是永远失眠的，人可以3班倒，比如说。 每个人工作8个小时，到后半夜换了另外一波工人，但是机器永远在那儿运转，这也暗指了我对机器的一种同情，也就是说，机器 AI 的时代如果真的来临的时候，我们人应该对它友善一些，否则它可能会报复我们的。这是因为我的想法都是很天真的。
So what I'm thinking, it was the human beings who invent the machinery. And unlike human who make shifts to work, machine keeps working continuously non-stop. So machine really has my sympathy. I'm thinking that human have to be kinder to machine in the future, especially when the time of AI comes. Otherwise, I'm thinking AI might take revenge against human beings. That's what I'm thinking.
What do you think about that, Zhang Ga? Are the robots coming to take over? Will the artists cease to exist?
I think it is very interesting that Liu Xiaodong invoked this notion that he might not aware that he is actually talking about a post-human kind of discourse. In a very artistic or very simple, put it in a very simple way of describing it. Because I think, in a way, I do believe that what I do as a curator, I'm an advocate advocator of a new kind of a symbiosis and a new kind of a post-human subjectivity that sort of takes all subjects as an equal kind of as equal as a symbiotic necessity. So Liu Xiaodong's response to his own practice through the machine painting somehow very, I think, intuitively sort of also responds to that notion of a post-human reality, I think.
Well, I mean, I agree, but I also, what I find fascinating about this project is the way in which, so we have Trafalgar Square here being laid out for us, but if you look at the beginning of some of the paintings that he made for the last project in London, you can see there's something in the handling of the paint or the initial marks that Xiaodong makes when he begins planning out his paintings, which have a lot in common, funnily enough, with these kind of hesitant, tentative marks that we see being made on the canvas. And what I like is that there is some kind of human element. Indeed, the robot hand, well, it's a hand, but it has almost like a finger projecting out with the paintbrush. Indeed, when we were testing it out, there was like a little plastic glove on the brush, and it made it, again, kind of anthropomorphized it, made it look like a human finger. Is it, did you want to have some kind of human element to this machine?
是这样的，我们跟这个编程师和机械师在一些讨论的时候，我会在他们面前用我的方式画画。我希望这个机器模仿我这个运动的快慢，我画画就这么慢。比如说画外形的时候，就是基本画一个人的外形，然后再画一个那个人的外形，基本在这种勾勒的状态，然后再往里头填颜色。
When I was collaborating with the engineer and programmer in the process of designing this robot painting, I demonstrated the way that I work before them. The way that I work was like I portray my subject, and then I look at my subject and portray it on the canvas. So the robot machine actually works as slowly as I am.
And Zhang Ga, you probably know the field of media art better than many people. How close are we to having truly artificial intelligence? Because this is a system designed obviously by humans, and then there is some degree of machine learning, but we're not kind of at that level yet. Where are we in terms of having our first truly artificial intelligent work of art?
I think this, technically speaking, this apparatus is quite simple. In fact, it's not involving machine learning. It's not a neural network kind of a algorithm. It's basically is mechanical, and it's certain gestures. The gestures are based on tracing the income data. So what you see is the streaming data from the camera feed from different locations. So the computer tries to, there's an algorithm written to only capture the moving objects and turn it into outlines. So this is constantly doing that, constantly updating the feed from the live stream. So in a way, this is not intelligent. It's actually quite primitive in terms of technology. But I don't think this is what matters here. I think what's really important is that there's a very different kind of approach to another potential, which also relates to very much of a human gesture, very much of a intuitive sort of it looks so, but in fact it's very basic. Yeah. So in terms of right now, it's a real big hype about AI, and Sotheby's just sold a piece by a AI machine painted work, which I think, for me, it doesn't represent the future. I think this whole hype about technological overtaking or sort of smarter than humans or whatever, it is a very dangerous kind of aspect of industry's infiltration in terms of a manipulation of a human or of society and cultural sort of tendencies. But I think I do believe that we have to face the reality that machines and the humans are more and more become symbiotic, and more and more become a sort of integrated new kind of a landscape that we have to deal with. We have to face up to, because to avoid or try to be escapist is not going to help, because that's a reality that is actually dawning on us.
And these kind of experiments will only learn what we teach them, so they learn essentially. And I like to think that this machine has learnt something from Xiaodong in terms of the painting and the handling. But I wanted to ask you, there is some way in which we'll discuss some of his earlier projects, but throughout his working life, there is a moment in which I feel like Xiaodong sometimes almost invites a loss of control in your work. So just for another example, when he was in London, we were painting in a nearby Egyptian restaurant, which he had all set up with his sitters, and then they all decided to leave in the middle of the portrait painting sitting. And in some ways, that was a painting that you lost control of, or suddenly you weren't the only agent involved, because there are other human beings involved. And I feel like this is another way of ceding control or somehow losing control of your work. Do you want to talk a bit about that?
这个机器绘画也有它非常偶然的、有趣的东西。因为一个编程师，他首先把这个照片输入一个数据，输入到这个电脑，这个电脑会给这个机器手一个指令，机器手指令里头也有一个程序，然后还有这个板儿，这个板儿是反射它的，主要这个板儿就是给那个定位的，它也有一套自己的指令，所以这个3套指令。人是希望它按完美的程序运作下去，可是他们3个有的时候会打架。他们3个，比如有时候停电，有的时候网络突然卡一下，于是他们3个谁听谁的，就面临着一个问题。所以这大家看这画里头，那边有一个对，太长了 ，so sorry， 拖浪。
There is something interesting about how this robot painting works. There's 3 sets of instruction or algorithm embedded in this mechanism. Firstly, there is feedback. There is data has to be transmitted from the camera to the computer, and then the computer instructs the robot arm to do the pull and push of the brush stroke to make marks on the canvas. But sometimes these 3 kind of algorithm or system has conflict. For example, sometimes the electricity is cut, and sometimes the internet is sort of interrupted, and that will also affect the way that the robot painter works.
比如里边有一张画，那个粉红色的那张画，它里边的画面就有很多线，那个是绝对不是事先，我们的程序让它这么画的，完全是他们不高兴了，他们3个互相可能不知道听谁的，造成了一个非常偶然的很多线在那里边，所以。
For example, you can see there is pink painting inside the room. And then there are some sort of additional unnecessary lines on the canvas that you can see. So these are not intentional intended by the programmer as such, but it was quite random because the sort of defect or sort of interaction happened in the process of painting in the robot, in the machine.
I think that also has a tradition, going back to the art history, there's a thing called the glitch art. So technologically mistaken gestures or so on and so forth. I remember in the 60s, 70s, there's a scan art. When you have a fax machine scanning images over, there's those jiggling sort of mistakes. And that become another sense of aesthetic sort of appropriation by the artist. So in that case, that's those machine mistakes actually creates its own beauty, and I think it adds something that is not an intentional artistic creation, but also expands the possibilities of aesthetic experiences. Yeah.
And yesterday, Xiaodong talked about how he'd built into the mechanism these springs that kind of keep the brush moving with a wavering line. And I'm not an expert, but I believe there is a tradition also in painting. I think it's Korean painting where this kind of hesitant line, or there's a way of painting that has this kind of fluidity to it. And so it's interesting that that's been inbuilt to the technology. So the springs actually help create that wavering line. I might actually ask Xiaodong to talk, because in the far gallery there's also a work called Time, which is a complex piece made for the Guangzhou Biennial, but it's made up of these 20 different panels painted over, also like these works, over a period of a long time, maybe 20 days, a day per panel roughly. And what's interesting about looking at that work is how you can see the passage of time in the painting, apart from the fact that the whole work represents a dark period, a student uprising in 1980, which killed lots of people in that location, where Xiaodong subsequently made one of the robot works. But on the panels, you can see the passing of time literally from the rain being on some panels and the water on the floor to a kind of sunny moment where he painted the portrait. So you can see the entire spread of time painted over across those panels. So maybe if you could talk a little bit about time in your own work.
就是时间这个东西，在机器画里全部被压在一个不停反复的色彩里，所以它其实每一秒都在画，可是画到2个月以后，时间全部压缩在这片颜色中。
For time, in this machine painting, time is compressed in the layers of paint. 这片被覆盖的颜色里边，有无数的人，有无数的车，还有光，还有移动的风、移动的云彩，都会有的。 In these layers of paint, it contains numerous people, wind, light, and traffic.
I think in a way it's very interesting also sort of touches upon a very sensitive question about representation here. The time where time is compressed, time is simultaneous, time is instantaneous. All of this destroys the referent and signifier and creates this flat contemporary experience, which is in a way that defeats the very notion of representation, because in sense of representation, you always need a referent, a signifier, and a signifier. So in this case, everything's flattened into one surface. So that really is an interesting way in this sort of work that very well answers to the question that representation is a notion of a past.
That's interesting because I just wanted to bring up the strange case of these figures that seem to appear out of nowhere in some of these paintings, especially in this green one and then next door in the Guangzhou painting, which appear like classical figures or the outlines of figures, but strangely they occur across 2 or 3 different paintings, and obviously not saying that they're not there, but they appear like ghosts, or they appear somehow ghosts in the machine, if you will. But I wondered if you could talk a little bit about that. I mean, that's another surprising element of this project.
Yeah, 那个幽灵在3张画里头重新出现。
The ghost-like figure actually appears repetitively in 3 canvases.
我很希望他画出了某种灵魂，某种 ghost 啊。
I hope that robots actually embodies or depicts the ghost, a kind of soul.
但实际情况，它是机器有某种记忆，它在断电或者是网络不畅的时候，它会根据它过去储存的记忆画，它不停，它只要是它这个机器老是不停的，但是你要网络一停了，它就会回忆它曾经有的形象。
Actually, it's because machine has memory. When electricity is cut or when the internet is interrupted, the robot wouldn't stop. It would still paint according to the memory that it has.
我很喜欢她的记忆，她正好记忆是一个自由女神的样子，是个 lady， 很自由女神的一个样子。我觉得 surprise， 我觉得 amazing。Oh my God！
I like what is embodied through this memory that machine sort of depicts, because what it depicts is like the goddess of freedom.
And what do you think about these works aesthetically, both of you? Because essentially you're leaving it up to chance, and I should say the other aspect of time is that all of these works were made during the span or the duration of one exhibition. So by the end of our show, that painting will be finished, and these paintings were made over a period of many months often. So, but what do you think about it aesthetically? Like, they are abstract, representational? Do you think they're good paintings?
这个就特别有哲学，就是这种绘画，我觉得是真的告诉我们一个非常朴素的哲学，就是你先说。
There is a kind of philosophy embedded in this question. It's very sort of mundane, really kind of philosophy.
也就是说，我们每一个人非常勤勤恳恳的工作每一分钟，直到死那一天，你突然发现毫无意义。它其实就告诉你这个道理。
It tells you an idea that we are working throughout our life until the last second of our life. But at the end, we'll realize that there's nothing there.
只要给他足够的时间，他最后画成一张抽象绘画。他其实是他的起初最早的愿望，他想画一个跟现实一模一样的绘画。可是时间长了以后，他突然变成一个，因为反复的覆盖，忽然变成你希望的相反的方向。
So after a duration of time, well, you kind of wish that it will represent the reality, but after a long time, it ends up being abstract because of the layers of paint.
For me, I think they are really paintings, and they're really beautiful paintings. And I think they are representational as well as abstraction. Exactly, because the intention is to capture images as it is, but in the end, it all becomes mushed together over time, because time left a very strong mark on this work, and the kind of unpredictability of the end result, and then the kind of a gestural kind of movements created this very vibrant and vivid sense of liveliness. And I think this is something probably very, very hard to achieve intentionally, you know. So it really brings up another question about a new sensibility in terms of art making, and the new possibility about art making. So I think they're very successful paintings by any means.
I agree, and I like the idea somehow that you're talking about a new philosophy, because maybe 60 or so years ago, when the abstract expressionists were practicing this type of all-over painting, so painting that went to every corner of the canvas, it's now being reproduced, but with a machine rather than through the human need to touch every corner of the canvas. But I also wanted to ask you maybe to talk a little bit about this idea of surveillance, because what we're looking at is obviously an accretion of the movement of people or vehicles through space. And as you know, I mean, London is probably, I think it's the second most heavily surveyed city after Beijing now. We have about 4 million cameras across the city. So what does it tell us about how we're being looked at and watched?
I think, of course, this work wasn't intended to answer that question, but also it's not avoidable that you feel that yes, you're being watched, and that very presence of these paintings also remind you that it is a technologically ubiquitous society with surveillance everywhere, and even for various purposes. You know, so this is like it reminds you where you are and when you are and in this very particular moment in time in history. I think so. This probably is the very interesting layer of the political message that is not probably intentional, but I think it speaks very strongly about the very reality of the society.
Xiaodong, was it intentional to talk about how we're being looked at?
这个监控啊，因为在英国这个作品，我体会到就是伦敦的监控这个系统非常的多，所以伦敦的老百姓都很讨厌这些摄像头。我们找了好多地方都是不允许的，因为伦敦的人的人权、那个肖像权、隐私权等等，要求的质量都要高，所以非常难。但是我这个其实对于个人来讲没有直接的，没有任何伤害。但反过来提醒大家，我们真的生活在无数的监视镜头下边，很友善地提醒了你，而不是对你形成任何伤害。
Regarding the question of surveillance, I think that in UK there is a really sophisticated there are lots of CCTVs installed in London, and then I feel that people in London really hate this system, really hate being watched by cameras. When I was trying to find a spot to install the camera, I encountered some difficulty. Because of this human rights issue in London, so people are quite sort of protective of their secrecy, and also this copyright issue. but actually there is no harm, so it won't causes any harm installing the camera. You just kindly, it's like a gentle reminder of the situation that we were in.
And there's an interesting parallel there with the way in which often Xiaodong approaches a portrait scenario, because especially when we were working in London, people aren't used to having paintings made of them unless, of course, they're royalty or, I don't know, sort of landed gentry. But the idea that you have to have some kind of relationship with the person you're painting is also a reminder of, he does a lot of looking and watching when you're making things. So maybe you could talk a bit about your role as an observer as well as a painter. Yeah, I just wondered, because you spend your time looking, he spends his time looking at people, so there's also that idea that he's surveying, he's in a relationship with the people that he's painting very often.
我就觉得作为一个画家，其实我很简单，我尽量保持我非常天真的眼光，去观察、去体会别人的生活，然后用我的方式表达出来。
As a painter, I would like to keep my innocent eye of experiencing others' life and watching how they're living.
If you could tell us a little bit about your original show for this, was called Datum Soria. So you had created this idea of a kind of clash or conflict between data and sensoria, or a sense of connection. And you also included in that exhibition wonderful work by Nam June Paik of Genghis Khan, with this sort of diving helmet attached to a body made of televisions, which, as you described it, kind of prefigures this kind of connected internet-related body that we now all experience many years later. So maybe just talk a little bit about that, and also about what you think maybe this prefigures. What does this, in the way that Nam June Paik looked forward, what are we looking forward to here?
This work has been, this particular apparatus with this many different iterations of the painting has been included in many exhibitions. So the original idea was to finish the commission and pair it work with a media artist of international renown to have a dialogue or some kind of a create kind of a context to situate the new work. So the first work was exhibited with Nam June Paik and Castor Nicolai, and this work at the Chronus Art Center. And then there's another much bigger version in 2017 at the ZKM Karlsruhe. I don't know if you know, this is a very big German art museum for specialized in media art. So that was the first work is called. The title was Datum Soria, Datum Data Sensorium. So it's a sort of a neologism that creates a sense of a new reality that is that's established by data as its a major component. So, and the ZKM version is an exhibition with 10 artists, and then we further define the concept. So Datum Soria, the return of the real. So it's try to look at the sense of real, with of course the notion of this is actually one of the essays written, a book written by an art historian. Hal Foster, yes. So this is an answer to Hal Foster's early book on the sense of real. So this is a new real that is comprised of a digital reality. So that is trying to bring to date the new notion about real. For the first show, when you mentioned the Nanjun Paik's work, Genghis Khan, that of course that work was made in 1994. So as if Genghis Khan was Nanjun Paik was foreseeing a future, but it was not there yet, because that was the time that internet had not reached the mass audience and has not been materialized as a major sort of contemporary experience. And then today, because this work is a network-based, robotically generated painting, that is a fully realized picture of what Nanjun Paik had anticipated, but we are living in it. And so this is sort of an answer to that earlier inkling of a society to come. So of course, I think each of these editions have sort of knitted into a much bigger question. And then this year, I'm going to curate the first triennial at the Kafa Art Museum, which is another elaboration on this whole idea that I've been developing. The exhibition will be called Topologies of the Real. So it is trying to map out the artistic sort of visions and to answer the challenges of the technologically constructed time-space since, in particular, since the mid-60s up to the present. So it has become a very important curatorial sort of interest for me or engagement for me, and to further develop the idea, to further sort of extend the inquiry about what is at the bottom of our contemporary experience. So the digital experience, and what does it mean to be digital?
Do we have any questions from the audience? Anyone want to ask anything of our painter or our robot even? I've got a lady in the middle there. If you just put your hand up, and if you could speak into the microphone, it would help for the recording. Thank you.
I will explain my question in both languages. 我想请问一下艺术家，就是你也认同说，这个机器它有它自己的运作的方式，还有它的一个生命在，所以等于说你完成了，尽管说它一直在模仿你的一些画的动作，但是等到它完成的时候，其实你等于是让它很有机的去发展，直到它结束。所以，我的问题是说，你如何定位你自己在这个作品里面？就是你认为你还是一个这个作品的艺术家，或者是你是城市编码员，或者是你是一个发明者？ Okay.
Let me translate this question first.
Okay. I can explain that.
Do you agree that despite the fact that the machine has a life of its own, it's got its way of working, but in fact it actually also mimics the way that you work? So how do you recognize your role related to this work? Are you the creator? Are you the programmer? Or are you the designer? Like, what's your role related to this work?
那么非常简单的回答你的问题就是说，我是一个决定者。
To put it simply, I'm the decision maker in relation to this work.
因为我是个艺术家，我决定他画什么，怎么画，到什么时候结束。这里就包含了我作为一个55岁的艺术家的所有的美学的影响，我对美的认识，我对社会的认识，我对人生的理解和观察。这个决定包含了其实我所有的人生的经验，所以这个艺术家只是做了一个决定，这个决定包含了艺术家的所有的学养和他的观察。
So I'm the artist. I decide how this work works. I decide how it will paint. It sort of registers registers my experience, my understanding about art and aesthetics, about beauty, about life, and also my experience of life as a 55-year-old artist.
And it's worth noting that I think, is it the only time that you actually touch the canvas is when you come to sign it at the end with Liu Xiaodong? Will you come back to sign the painting when it's finished?
我为了给你们画廊省钱，我其实已经在侧面签好了名了。因为我再来一次，你们还得给我起机票，还得付旅馆，我也为了你们省一点钱。其实我已经知道它画成什么样，它一定非常好，所以我已经签好了。抱歉。
In order to save money for the gallery, I've already signed the painting. I've already signed the painting. Otherwise, you have to pay for my accommodation, my flight again.
Okay, fair enough. Let the robot do its work. Any other questions for either of our gentlemen? Yeah, one at the front and then one at the back. Just ask. Oh, sorry. You both want to do one.
Okay,
you go first.
There seems to be quite a strong photographic component to your paintings. You have a camera and the brush is describing what the camera sees. I was looking at your paintings and I was thinking about what photographers try and do, or at least what good photographers try and do. They take a machine and they try and produce something personal with a machine. So they're fighting a machine. I wonder if you have anything to say about the relationship with photography in your paintings.
It's a very good question because he does use photography a lot in his work.
Yes, 是这样。摄影的元素在这个里头，因为它就是根据照片画的，每一秒拍一张照片，根据它画的，所以它很像一个摄影。画完以后，还是有点像个摄影，它只是比摄影更抽象了，因为它是重复的时间太多了。所以摄影对于我来讲，是一个比绘画稍稍客观一点的一个工具。因为绘画是不是太长了？绘画是我们眼睛瞬间的判断，我们会看不见很多东西，在那个瞬间的时候，我们眼睛只看见我们愿意看到的东西。可是照相不一样，它同时间什么都看到了。
There's indeed a photographic element in this work, because the robot painter actually paints exactly according to the photographic images captured in the street of London. I think photography is a little bit more objective than painting, because what a painter captures is a moment of what he sees, whereas with photography, it completely captures the picture of the scenery.
Thanks.
Thank
do
you.
you want to pass another couple of very quick questions? I'm conscious of time.
I'm wondering, is this what the futurists were dreaming of? Capturing movement directly onto canvas, and your invention enables this to be done in a very new way and perhaps a more real way than they were able to achieve.
也许他的问题就已经我没太听懂，但是我想啊，这个它也不一定是个未来，因为我还在这儿，它跟我是平行发展的。我一面绘画，我用手工去绘画，另一个时间他也在绘画，所以虽然它都是我都签名的作品，可是他 他的未来和我的绘画的未来，我觉得都是平行的，谁也代替不了谁的。不能说他比我的绘画先进，我的绘画比他古老，都不是的。我觉得他们俩反正都是现在正在发生的一个关系，平行的关系。
I think it's not necessarily concerning the future because this painting. So I'm working hand in hand actually with this painting. My work goes hand in hand with this painting. I'm doing my painting while it is doing his work. Its work. There's always a parallel relationship in this process.
It's probably worth noting as well that this might well be the last painting in the series. So since 2015, I don't know exactly how many works have been made. Most of them are here. But will that be the end of this work after this exhibition? Is that the idea, to finish this series?
对，这个差不多系列就完成了。这个系列大概画了11张，可能最后一次有可能就Zhang Ga，因为他要策划一个北京那个3年展，他希望这个作品在北京画一次，因为这毕竟是我生在那儿。我觉得他的建议是很有人情的，所以这有可能是最后的前一张。
So this is likely to be the second of the last body of work. Zhang Ga is curating a Triennial exhibition in Beijing for the cover, and then he hopes the artist will be able to do a painting like this in Beijing. So it's the first time I've seen this robot painting. I'm just wondering, after it finishes, will you manually add a few marks on the canvas?
不会的，他好像一点都不动。我只是找一个最小的一个地方写上我的名字，其他一概不动。
I wouldn't make any mark on the canvas. I'll just find a place quite sort of unnoticed to sign my name.
I think a very kind of down-to-earth question. The striking thing about these canvases is that they are all produced in a single color. What made you make this choice of using only one color for one canvas?
我选择色彩都是根据我对这个地区的了解、观察和感觉决定的。
The way I choose the color depends on how I understand this region and my observation to it.
比如眼前这张，这是德国一个很小的城镇，叫卡尔斯鲁厄。我到那儿以后，感觉非常安静，而且有一些怀旧，没有几个人，所以我选择一个有一点淡淡的，介于蓝和绿之间的，有一点怀旧的色彩的色彩。
For example, for this painting, it depicts Karlsruhe, a very little city in Germany. When I went there, I feel that it was really serene, quiet. There were no people in the streets. It gives me a little bit of nostalgic feeling, so I chose this light color in between blue and green, so it registers a little bit of nostalgia in it.
那么这张画的是 BMW 生产汽车的车间，这跟我的印象正好相反。我以为你们帝国主义很发达的国家已经没有人去劳动了。当我发现去那个工厂参观的时候，我发现成千上万的人在那儿走动、吃饭、排队，然后他们很有热情的工作，非常朝气蓬勃，非常有一种我 过去那种我看到过的劳动场景。那么我以为我看不到了人的劳动，结果我看到了。
Another example is this painting that depicts BMW factory. So in my previous understanding, I used to think that in the imperial country, and there are no people working, but actually, by contrast, there are lots of people working in this factory and with passion. So people line up to get meal, and the people working, doing their labor, they are really passionate about their work. So that's to my surprise.
所以我选择的非常有热情的火一样的颜色，因为我喜欢劳动。
So I choose this the color of fire because I have passion in working.
I also like the idea that Xiaodong decided to paint this one in Prussian blue because he said that that relates to our own royal family and the fact that we're very polite here in Britain, which I thought was nice. So anyway, without further ado, thank you all for coming. Thanks for staying this lunchtime. Big up to you guys. Thank you.